am. I'm loyal. Like, if you're honest with me, it doesn't matter. I will love you. I will stand up for you till the end.
Clearly, she did not extend such loyalty to her own father. The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, two of the Hulk's most formidable enemies, were spotted at a party with Brooke Hogan, according to a recently released video. Now people are talking. She was taken out of the will because of it, according to some. Some others think that was the last straw that caused the Hogan family to be irrevocably destroyed. Let's break everything down. When family disputes turn into nuclear wars. The idea that Brooke Hogan went out with the enemy is not being accepted on the internet. In a recent video, she can be seen hanging out with two of the Hulk's most formidable opponents. It has, in fact, caught people off guard. Brooke wasn't your typical kid who enjoyed wrestling. She was the wrestler's child. Her entire childhood, including her upbringing as the daughter of the guy who essentially defined wrestling stardom, was documented on camera thanks to Hogan Knows Best. Seeing her now with the same men that quarreled with her father is absurd. But underneath his perfect exterior were some extremely dark truths. The Hogan empire was in ruins in the background. What started off as a television family straight out of a fairy tale eventually became one of the most startling scandals in entertainment history. Everything came to a climax with the notorious 2006 sex tape, which was leaked years later in 2012 and led to a $31 million court victory against Gawker. Contrary to popular opinion, that was just the beginning of the chaos. The real nuclear bomb detonated in 2015 when transcripts of that sex tape revealed something that would leave you stunned. Hulk Hogan was caught on tape making racist comments against his own daughter in particular. Hogan built his entire career on becoming America's hero. And I'm not talking about a few careless, innocuous comments. We're talking about full-fledged racist outbursts that ruin relationships and ruin careers. The transcripts indicate that Hogan made reference to Brooke's relationship with a black man. Let that settle in for a while. When discussing his own daughter's dating life, this father was literally using racist slurs that would have made your grandparents from the 1950s cringe. But hold on for a second, he also admitted that I am a racist to a point. The repercussions were swift and devastating. Before you could respond, "What are you going to do, brother?" Brooke's story becomes incredibly complex and agonizing. We sacked him and removed him from their Hall of Fame as if he had never been there. Instead of accusing her father right after, as almost any reasonable person would do, she initially defended him. And we have video of her talking about this unlikely situation.
It's hard, and you know, everybody was like, oh, Brooke stands by her dad and this and that. And it's like, first of all, that's who I am. I'm loyal. Like, if you're honest with me, it doesn't matter. I will love you. I will stand up for you till the end.
Is it possible for you to imagine yourself in that circumstance? You are still trying to protect your father from the racist comments about your romantic choices that are documented on tape, since he is still your father. But the damage was already done, and it went far beyond mere humiliation in public. The dispute reportedly ended Brooke's musical career by destroying her friendship with a black producer, Push. The psychological impact of this situation cannot be overstated. Imagine navigating your early 20s, finding your identity, starting your own career, and maintaining relationships while your father's discriminatory comments about your love life are shown on every entertainment news station in the world. Listen to her as she tries to understand this impossibility.
Love that quote that says, like, don't judge somebody on the decisions that they made when you don't know the options they had to choose from, or that you don't know the mind space or the marriage or the job or whatever they were in. It's hard to say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. I would never do that. It's like, you don't know if you are under a certain amount of stress or if there's certain temptations or things like that.
Wait, somehow, this story ends up becoming even more disturbing. We have to talk about some of Hulk's acts that, to be honest, created a lot of discomfort even before the racist problem came to light. In 2013, while they were sunbathing together, Hogan posted photos of Brooke's legs on social media, calling them perfect. And paparazzi saw him applying sunscreen to her buttocks. charges of inappropriate behavior started to surface online right away. And is it really their fault? This social media incident wasn't unique either. The pattern of action suggested a much more concerning facet of the family dynamics that took place behind closed doors. This and all the other information we have about Hulk's behavior paint a picture of a man who found it difficult to establish limits with his own family. Now let's go on to the worst aspect of this catastrophe. Despite initially defending her father throughout the 2015 affair, Brooke's relationship with both of her parents began to deteriorate significantly in the years that followed. In September 2023, she made the decision to stop speaking with Hulk altogether, accusing him of being surrounded by poisonous people and declining health. Brooke claimed both of her parents had verbally, mentally, and physically assaulted her since she was a small child in what can only be described as a nuclear family breakdown. The charges we are talking about are much more serious than typical family strife. Someone who has publicly supported her parents for years is suddenly accusing them of serious abuse. The extent of this family breakdown is, to be honest, shocking. Hulk never met his grandchildren, and Brooke did not attend his 2023 wedding to Sky Daily. Can you imagine the depth of the betrayal and hurt that would lead someone to intentionally cut off their children's parents and keep them away from their pretend, their me's, long-lasting color? And Brooke did not attend his 2023 wedding to Sky not caring. They comported by molesque. They perprayed soper and decided to see by pocus procade, my usel well sonor, my ales, my well sen, by my apres.
Yeah, and if anybody should have disowned me, it should have been her. You know, she should have been the one. She should have been the one to throw me out like the trash, but instead she showed me more love than anybody.
The situation became even more terrible when Brooke requested to be removed from Hulk's will prior to his death and was left with nothing from his estate. Think about that for a moment. She just decided to leave behind what was probably a substantial wealth rather than maintain any kind of relationship with her father. From a broader social perspective, Brooke's story shows how even the Hulk seemed to recognize the magnitude of the damage he had caused. Interview 545-602. In a modest but powerful statement following Hulk's passing on July 24, 2025, Brooke thanked him for exposing the real Brooke behind his popular persona. We need to talk about how Hulk's pattern of dishonesty and manipulation went beyond his personal life after learning about the damaging familial dynamics that were taking place behind the scenes. This behavior was also absolutely destroying his professional connections. The only time this is more obvious is during his notorious feud with The Undertaker. This long-simmering anger is an example of how Hulk's selfishness affected everyone around him. The Undertaker's fabled bitterness. The foundation for this story was laid in 1991, when The Undertaker was only 26 years old and represented everything that wrestling could become: athletic, mysterious, and genuinely intriguing in a way that transcended typical sports entertainment. Hulk Hogan, the reigning monarch, had built his empire with a unique blend of nationalistic heroics and crowd control. The generational struggle was inevitable, but what followed would change their relationship forever. At Survivor Series 1991, these two forces united in what ought to have been a passing of the torch ceremony. The Undertaker defeated Hogan.
Oh, brother, you got me. I'm like, I just crippled the golden goose. I just heard
Hogan with a tombstone piledriver to win his first WF championship. And for a short time, it seemed that the wrestling business was growing exactly how it should. But then, in the most dishonest way possible, the true nature of the Hulk was revealed. Here, The Undertaker himself describes what happened at that crucial moment. Interview 737-742. Hogan said that Undertaker had suffered a significant neck injury right after the performance, exaggerating the injuries backstage to an almost theatrical degree. This was no minor complaint. This massive attempt at manipulation was intended to undermine The Undertaker's greatest career accomplishment. Imagine achieving your goal at age 26 and then being accused of nearly wrecking the career of the company's top star. Psychological warfare was devastatingly effective. The Undertaker has expressed feelings of shame and heartbreak, and he genuinely worries about losing his job. But at this point, the narrative shifts from a terrible tragedy to a purposeful falsehood that would make you doubt your beliefs. In individuals, I was unable to see the video for a few days. He didn't ever touch his head. Indeed, precisely. Watching the film of the fight made it clear that Hogan's head never touched the mat. The tombstone piledriver had been executed flawlessly with the best safety measures in place. Hulk Hogan had invented the entire injury story in order to manage the situation and protect his own position. The first consequences were catastrophic. 6 days after winning the title, The Undertaker lost against Hogan in Texas on Tuesday. Less than 6 days passed during The Undertaker's first major title reign. Hogan made up an illness to get his belt back immediately, so it took more than a week. It was more than just a title. This had to do with a pattern of behavior that would define Hulk's whole approach to the wrestling industry. Just as he was creating poisonous family dynamics at home with his unethical behavior toward Brooke and his racist statements, he was using lies and deception to influence his workplace. The Undertaker realized that he was dealing with someone who would readily destroy other people's chances if it served his own purposes. Their paths crossed again in 2002 when Hogan rejoined the WWE. By this time, the power dynamics had completely. Undertaker's candid thoughts regarding Hogan's legacy. The Undertaker responded bluntly and savagely to a podcast discussion about Hogan being made fun of on WWE Raw's Netflix premiere. Interview, 10:05-10:15. This line makes greater sense when you understand the context completely. The Undertaker talked about more than just the 2015 racism incident. He was referring to decades of behavior, such as the manipulation at work, the dysfunction in the family we had discussed before, and the propensity to put oneself above others at all costs. Even when The Undertaker admitted Hogan's historical significance, their hesitation was clear. Interview 2, 10:38-10:45, his tone, repetition, and direct acknowledgement of the beef demonstrated that he was still resentful at having taken advantage at the most crucial juncture in his early career, even though he acknowledged Hogan's importance. After Hogan's death, The Undertaker shared a knowledgeable tribute to him, yet even in death, the message sounded cold and impersonal rather than heartfelt. It was the response of someone who understood the business commitment and understood the need to respect personal boundaries established decades before. An excellent illustration of how poisonous behavior may have enduring consequences is the friendship between Hogan and The Undertaker. Just as Hogan's prejudice and inappropriate behavior destroyed his relationship with Brooke, his professional manipulation created a bitterness that lasted a lifetime. Occupation. But The Undertaker's story also exposes something important: how to deal with toxic individuals without sacrificing your morals, and how to progressively gain enough power to stop manipulation like this in the future. If you thought The Undertaker's cool-headed, professional approach to Hogan was intense, wait until you see how one beast incarnate decided to handle the situation with no diplomatic filter at all. When Brock Lesnar was brutally destroyed, he must talk about what happened when someone who had known a tolerance for politics and manipulation entered the situation after discovering how Hulk's toxic behavior destroyed his relationships with his family and caused him to harbor enduring professional animosity. That someone is Brock Lesnar, a man who embodies everything that Hulk Hogan's wrestling career wasn't: sincere, truly threatening, and completely uninterested in engaging in political games. Brock Lesnar's approach to dealing with Hulk Hogan is striking because it contrasts sharply with The Undertaker's subdued, enduring animosity. In the most filthy, public way possible, Lesnar decided to simply destroy Hogan's mind, while The Undertaker remained polite but held resentment. And to be honest, that was rather amazing to see. Let's start with Brock's first run-in with Hogan in 2002, which set the stage for his ultimate complete dominance. Consider this. Lesnar, a genetic freak and genuine amateur wrestling champion, had just made his appearance as the next big thing. He seems to have been made in a laboratory specifically to kill other people. Hogan was feeling nostalgic after returning to WWE and trying to rekindle some of the Hulkamania magic from his earlier days. Their feud grew more intense over several SmackDown shows, with Lesnar concentrating on Hogan to prove his dominance over the older generation. But the actual game, played on August 8, 2002, was less about competitiveness and more about total and utter annihilation. Lesnar won easily with a bear hug submission and a post-match attack with a steel chair that left Hogan injured and bleeding. This was not a straightforward transfer. In this case, Lesnar actually snatched the flame from Hogan's grasp and used it to burn the entire limb. Concept after demonstrating respect for your superiors in professional wrestling. The message was clear. The days of superstars like Hogan were over, and the Brock Lesnar era had officially begun. But this is where things start to get really legendary. And by legendary, I mean in the most denigrating sense of the word when describing a career. We witnessed what might have been the most vicious incident in recent WWE history. On August 14, 2014, surrounded by renowned wrestlers, Hogan celebrated his 61st birthday on Monday Night Raw, probably feeling very satisfied with his career and place in the history of the sport. Then Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman decided to ruin the entire ambience in one of the most rude interruptions in wrestling history. And that exact moment is permanently recorded in our records. The celebration is over, Grandpa. 3 words on. Live television destroyed a 61-year-old man's birthday celebration in front of millions of viewers. Hogan was reportedly so furious after this unforeseen incident that John Cena had to go backstage to prevent things from getting worse. This moment is amazing in more ways than just its devastating delivery. The way it encapsulated everything that professional wrestler Brock Lesnar stands for is what makes it so great. He doesn't care about your history, your ancestry, your feelings, or your birthday celebration. If you stand in his way, he will destroy you with the kind of cold, cunning harshness that makes grown men reconsider their choices in life. When you take into account what Lesnar has accomplished by 2014, this becomes even more astounding. This was no young, unskilled man trying to make a name for himself. After dominating the WWE and winning the heavyweight title in the UFC, this man returned a more terrifying version of himself. His referring to Hogan as Grandpa was more than just impoliteness. He was expressing a biological fact about the generational gap between them. I haven't done anything to offend you, but if you keep bringing up my name, I will. Hogan allegedly threatened Lesnar in an interview following the incident, saying, "All I got to say is Brock. You are not permitted to say such things. Brock. Before my wife and kids." The power of psychological warfare is evident in the fact that an adult man felt obliged to publicly threaten Brock Lesnar because he was called Grandpa. But Lesnar's influence went beyond simply ruining Hogan's birthday party. Some of the most memorable moments in wrestling history were shaped by his relationship with The Undertaker, and I'm not just talking about their matches, either. I'm talking about the kind of tension that exists in real life and makes wrestling far more compelling than any drama that has been written. After their first meetings in 2002 and 2003, they fought for the WWE Championship at Unforgiven 2002, which led to double disqualification. and ended in a brutal Hell in Cell match at No Mercy 2002, which Lesnar won. The Undertaker will keep the championship. But the most remarkable part of their connection happened outside the ring in 2010. You want to do it on camera. It's interesting to think about the psychological effects of this event. This is the legendary wrestler The Undertaker challenging Brock Lesnar to a fight during a UFC event shortly after Lesnar had just lost his title. This was either real heat spilling over in public or the most well-timed psychological warfare. The Undertaker was present as a fan at UFC 121, where Lesnar was competing just after he lost his heavyweight title to Cain Velasquez. This WWE drama wasn't staged. It was a real-life conflict in front of an actual MMA audience. But the truth is that there was enough animosity between these two alpha men for it to show up in real life in a very visible way. One of the most shocking events in wrestling history happened at WrestleMania 30 in 2014, when Lesnar ended his illustrious 21-match winning streak by defeating The Undertaker with 3 F5 South in a last-minute decision by Vince McMahon. Thousands of people sat in stunned silence watching something they never imagined seeing. The Undertaker later claimed that it was a mix of lighthearted jabs and genuine interest in a potential MMA crossover. It was a cultural moment that went beyond simply watching sports. It showed that Brock Lesnar was performing at a higher level than the others, that he could accomplish seemingly impossible feats. But when you look at it all together, this is what makes Brock Lesnar so fascinating. Even though Hogan has no tolerance for his behavior, he has managed to maintain his relationship and respect for The Undertaker, who has often praised Lesnar's work ethic, family values, and genuineness, referring to him as a personal friend. This is real, and it goes beyond simple business etiquette. Lesnar, on the other hand, has been candid about the reasons why wrestlers don't like Hogan. He has publicly defended Hogan's betrayal of unionization attempts, refusal to lose cleanly, and backroom politics. On the other hand, wrestling has a history of supporting up-and-coming talent. So when Brock Lesnar criticizes you for not supporting up-and-coming wrestlers, that's more than just criticism. It's a valid character assassination from someone whose perspective is truly significant. It's the perfect contrast. Because of The Undertaker's decades of consistent behavior, support for newer wrestlers, and adherence to his ethics, even when it wasn't convenient, Lesnar appreciates The Undertaker. He doesn't appreciate Hogan at all because he stands for the old-fashioned wrestling mentality of defending your position at the expense of others is flawed in every way. And what's even more amazing is Lesnar's continued exposure of Hogan's tendency to lie and exaggerate. Hogan has made a number of false claims that he helped coach Lesnar and that he wrestled with him 10 or 12 times. In fact, he claimed to have been Lesnar's first opponent in the WWE after his 2012 UFC comeback. But according to wrestling records, they only had 2 official matches, so Hogan's claims are completely false. When Hogan passed away on July 24, 2025, Lesnar unexpectedly returned to WWE SmackDown to pay his respects. And it was reported that he delivered a heartfelt message expressing shock at Hogan's passing. Lesnar remained professional even in death, but the tribute felt more necessary than heartfelt. Brock Lesnar is a great example of how professional wrestling has evolved from the political, ego-driven age that Hogan embodied to a more performance-based, legitimate competition approach. He physically and mentally destroyed Hogan while maintaining genuine friendships with wrestlers like The Undertaker, who earned his respect through their actions rather than their political scheming. Lesnar's meetings about grandpa moments were more than just a huge insult. They were a symbolic declaration that the days of men like Hogan abusing their position were over, and that a new generation of wrestlers would succeed due to their genuine abilities rather than their backroom politics, and by being loyal to yourself, honoring those who deserve it, destroying those who don't. and dropping one-liners so vicious that they become wrestling legends for generations to come. My friends, you leave a legacy that transcends wrestling. Thank you for reading. Click on your screen to see our other exciting content.